Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the recap and review of NCIS Season 13, Episode 22, Homefront. So the episode starts out with a military father saying goodbye to his children because he is to leave, and he tells his son to protect his family. Flash forward, the son is hiding in the closet with a gun because apparently someone tried to murder him. I'm assuming some things happened between that flash forward. Flash forward again, this time past the theme song. So then we see the aftermath of Tamaro's funeral, which is basically breakfast. This is also where we find out that DiNozzo's in England exploring leads on Jacob Scott. FYI, he's never physically in this episode. The team gets called to the young boy's crime scene, and there's a cop there expressing how sorry she feels for the boy and she cares deeply for young children. You can probably assume that if I'm mentioning this, she's gonna come back up. Essentially, the kid was using the gun to defend himself against the guy who was coming to his house to attack him. Tony has apparently found a lead in London, so there's only 2 men for the job. The toothpick is in, which can only mean that Vance and Fornell are out to solve the case. I'm glad that after several seasons and the mention of an engagement ring, we can finally establish that McGee and Delilah are serious. And it only takes DiNozzo's failed attempt to set McGee up with a resident of a Russian bathhouse to prove it. They take the kid in for questioning and they bring his mom and his little sister, and it turns out that even though the mom is a really successful lawyer, she can't practice within the state until she passes the West Virginia bar. And that really strikes a chord with the team. McGee senses a real connection with this kid, and in order to explain that connection, he tries to bring up the dangerous topic of family with Gibbs. But before we can rip open that still festering wound, Gibbs allows him to have a one-on-one talking with the child. There's some really touching and genuine brotherly McGee stuff going on between him and this teenage boy. We delve into some of McGee's past. You know, everyone kind of laughs at McGee. McGee had to grow up really strong and tough. I think McGee's a lot tougher than we give him credit for. And it really allows him to relate to this young boy. We've seen McGee be brotherly quite a bit, whether it be with his own sister or with that other kid from like the Big Brother, Little Brother program. And now this, I think Brother McGee is just really wonderful. And I'm glad we've seen more of it as the series has gone on. During one of their conversations, McGee and the boy are talking at the diner, and then that's also where they were eating breakfast earlier. Throughout the past third of the series, this diner has kind of quietly become a little bit of a staple in the show. I mean, it's obviously not as central to the show as like the squad room, but it's in so many episodes and a lot of scenes. I think that diner atmosphere has allowed for some really nice character-oriented, familial, comfortable, and just chit-chatty scenes. So I really appreciate it. I like it. Turns out the kid witnessed a brutal murder. That's unfortunate. Fornell and Vance follow one of DiNozzo's leads to the former head of MI6. She was one of the people that was involved in the mission that got Tamaro killed, so they fear that she might be next. Plot twist! The man who was trying to murder the boy has now been murdered himself. Back in London, Vance and Fornell are talking with the woman from MI6. She says that the person that ended up killing the spy's wife was actually a sniper, that they weren't exactly sure where they came from. She said that all of her agents were cleared and that it didn't come from MI6, so it must have been coming from NCIS. It also doesn't really help that Tamaro was the one that wanted to hide that information. But before they can discuss this any further, there's a shootout. They end up all being fine though. Like, for now at least. We'll talk about that. I freaking love Bishop's friendships with everyone. Because this episode, her friendship with Abby was amazing. They are so supportive of one another, and it's so wonderful. I know I haven't mentioned Abby a lot this episode, but she's running like a compliment campaign situation. The stuff that Abby's doing this episode isn't really like series changing or intense, but it's still really sweet and it's very Abby. It turns out that a dirty cop killed that other man and was involved in the whole thing. Can you guess who that cop was? It was the nice cop from the beginning. Who would have thunk? And then they're at the White House, and Michelle Obama is there, and they're discussing joining forces. It seems like a really, really nice initiative about helping military personnel and their families, and I'm glad that they incorporated it into this episode, and I thought they did a really nice job of incorporating it. I thought the way that they took the mom from the case and her career as a way of incorporating this initiative was a good choice. I thought it was a nice subplot and a cool way to raise awareness. And then his dad comes home, and it's a really, really nice ending for this family. And then the ending rolls around. And it's Fornell and the MI6 woman, and they're back at Gibbs's house, and it turns out someone has snuck in to, like, hurt them. Fornell's trying to play it cool and not reveal that he knows someone's in the house, but I think he gave it away when he was talking like this to the woman. So they end up getting shot. A lot. Fornell gets shot several times, kind of in the chest and shoulder region, as far as I could tell. This poor MI6 woman gets shot, and then she ends up kind of stuck on the ground, and then you don't see who's behind the gun, but you do see them shoot it. It looks like it's gonna do some damage to her. It doesn't say whether or not she died. It just ends with a to be continued. So that was Homefront. The one thing about this episode is I was really caught off guard by the lack of Tony. His presence is incorporated throughout the episode, and it is believable that he'd be in London, and I'm interested to see how they incorporate that in the next two episodes. And you know, like, that same thing kind of happened with Aziva, where she wasn't in her penultimate episode. At least I think he's gonna be in his penultimate episode. He has to be in one of the two that are coming up next. I don't know if Michael Weatherly had other obligations for any other projects he's working on. It's really understandable. He's gonna be exiting the show soon, so it would make sense that he'd have some other projects to be working on, if that is the case. I don't know if there was like any kind of contract thing. I don't know. As much as I would have liked him to physically appear in this episode, I think it still worked with him being in London for this episode. Very excited to talk about this promo and these next two episodes. I'm very interested to see what happens. I'm very excited. Again, the whole excited, sad to see Tony leave though situation. I can't wait for these next two episodes. But let's talk about season 14 for a moment. And season 14 videos. The way my schedule for like life is looking next year, it looks like my schedule's going to be a lot fuller. Basically, there's not going to be spoilers, theories, / recaps, reviews for individual episodes next season. As much as I would love for there to be those videos, I just don't think it's gonna work. I still do want to discuss spoilers and make recaps, and so what my thought process is right now is I'm thinking about doing it in chunks. So instead of each individual episode getting their own set of videos, it would kind of be in chunks. It would be a larger grouping of episodes kind of talked about in one whole video. Essentially with the grouping method, they'll still be there, they'll just be less frequent and more spread out. I'm really sorry, but I think that's kind of how it's gonna work out. I'm not sure exactly what the video schedule is gonna look like next season yet. I just really wanted to give you guys a heads up on that. You guys are awesome, as always. I'm very excited to discuss the spoilers and theories for the next episode. I really am digging this finale arc, but there's still 2 episodes left. It looks like there's a lot that's happening, so I will see you guys for the spoilers and theories video for NCIS season 13, episode 23. So I will see you guys for the spoilers and theories video for NCIS season 13, episode 23.